There is a rare type of dreamer called an Omni, which is somebody that is lucid in every dream that they have. Whether they have full control or not, they are aware that they are dreaming every time they lay down and sleep, which can be really exhausting to be consciously aware 24/7. So the purpose of today's episode is to gather people that can relate to this. If you feel like this might be you, you're actually not alone, and there's other people that have similar dream experiences. Definitely join our Discord so you can get in on the conversation. That's what the Dream World podcast is all about. Nuclear Stardust is an Omni and says that he is lucid in every dream ever. So I'll let you and Night Owl, let y'all introduce yourselves.
So hi guys, I'm Night Owl. I'm the host of the largest ongoing lucid dreaming experiment. If you're still curious about what that is, me and Amina had a great conversation last week about that. We're still looking for participants who can join and still actively be involved in the methods that we're experimenting with, or if you just want to fill out a quick daily 2-minute survey, be a part of scientific history, we need people in that control group as well. Definitely check us out, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Hello guys, I'm Nuclear Stardust. You can just call me Nuke, so it's easier. I'm I think, regular fellow from Europe, Eastern Europe to be specific. Started learning about lucidity and lucid dreaming when I was like 13. A friend of mine showed me a video about this, and I was like, isn't this the norm? Don't people actually know that they're dreaming and they have control? And that's the whole point of playing a game when you're going to sleep. And he was like, no. And I was really confused by that statement. I couldn't really understand it. And I started to speak to other friends and family, and they all told me that I'm the actual weird one that actually knows he's dreaming always and he can control it and everything. And they were like, are you some of the older folks were like, are you a witch or what's wrong with you? Why do you have all these things? It's unusual. As I started to learn, it's not that impossible. Yeah, what I hope to do is to gather more and more people to study actual lucidity and to learn and teach others what it means to use your dreams in a meaningful and helpful way. That's what I hope to do with this experiment and all the other things that I try to do in the meantime with the people I'm talking to and friends and all that.
So glad that we met, through this experiment. We've had a lot of great conversations. Honestly, it started out as, you were an anomaly in the data set, and very few people even claim to have attained that level of lucidity. And I think I've struggled personally with really understanding what that means for you. So maybe you could just tell us, a little bit more about how it started for you. How long has this been going on, Nuke?
Like, I don't remember the actual start. One of the first memories I've ever had was when I was around 3 or 4. I had a dream, or I guess a lucid dreaming, in which it was basically a nightmare. There was some monster in the corner of my room, and I was playing with my toys in the dream somehow. And I got pretty scared by it. And I was like, wait, no, monsters don't exist. You shouldn't be here. And then he just disappeared in front of my eyes. And like, it was really weird. Like, that kind of thing leaves a mark on you, I guess. And that's one of my first ever memories. Like, that's like, I was 3. And I talked to my parents about it, and they said that I always was talking or mentioning my dreams, and I was describing them pretty vividly, but they just said, oh, it's just child imagination. And actually, my mom says that now that she thinks about it, like, she actually saw some signs that I was having some really vivid dreams. Like, they were having an effect on me and everything. She said that I didn't sleep at all during the day. I would sleep only at night. For some reason, I couldn't sleep at the kindergarten or anywhere. There were some pretty weird anomalies about my sleep schedule and all those things. So it started from a very young age, and I just went with it. I didn't ever think about it because I thought that was the norm. Especially when you're young, you don't realize that other people have different experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting, honestly. And I can imagine why a lot of people would have a weirded out or negative stigma around that because it is so rare, honestly. as a child with that much like dream control, because children already have more natural and lucid dreams as it is. So I can't imagine how vivid it was for you. Like, what type of things did you do as a child? Like just fun video game stuff?
It's kind of funny actually, because I start my father is works in IT, and I always had a computer in my house ever since I was born. I was basically with a computer in my hand. I'm not that old. I'm 22, turning 33, and in 2000 it wasn't that common to have a computer in our house, especially in Romania. I was one of the few kids with a computer in the neighborhood. So I started using the computer and watching a lot of digital things since I was very young. So my imagination, I believe, was really helped by that. The fact that I started playing my first games when I was like 2. My father would just put some farm. I think it was a farm game I would play when I was like you had to manage a farm and you had to find different things. It was like a puzzle, I think. And actually, what that was the first time I interacted with English. I basically learned English before I learned Romanian because the game was in English and I didn't know all the words for those things, but I knew them in English. Which I now that I'm watching my niece who's like 7 or 8, I see that she has a really similar experience. Like she learned colors in English before learning them in Romanian, and that's I guess because of the internet and YouTube and all those things. So yeah, I think that was the big thing. I also was a really artistically inclined kid, especially towards music. I went to a music specialized kindergarten. I was learning the piano, and it didn't really work out for me, I guess, because after kindergarten I went to normal school. But I still had a big passion for music. Both my parents listened to a lot of music, and I guess that's what influenced me a lot towards my artistic side. And I play the guitar almost every day now for the past I think 12 years. So yeah, those things kind of left a mark on me. And regarding actual dreaming, yeah, I think I always remember like my dreams having been influenced by whatever I am playing or whatever I was watching at the time. Like if I watched a cartoon with Tom and Jerry, I would have like a dream about Tom and Jerry, and they would be goofing around with me and playing with me and all those things. So
I was actually talking about this on Clubhouse today that it's proven that people that play more video games have more lucid dreams, and I'm sure, we'll get into the whole nature nurture debate. Games are kind of like a VR conscious experience thing, and dreams are very similar in that way. I always compare lucid dreams to like a VR fully immersive video game. So as somebody has spent so much time lucid in a dream, what are some ways that people can use their dreams for good, whether you're a often lucid dreamer or not.
I think the first experiences with lucidity will be more than likely fooling around with it, trying different things, searching for the boundaries where you have control and you don't have control, which is completely normal. But after you have a few goes with it, you'll start to see that actually the characters in your dreams or different parts of your dreams are actually parts of you. And as you interact with them, you actually interact with yourself. You interact with different parts of your subconscious. That's how I like to see it. Um, and that can help you with dealing with trauma, dealing with stress. If you start to have enough lucid dreams that you can actually develop a permanent realm, you'll start to get consistency in your dreams. And once you have consistency, you have total control. And that's when you can actually get the full benefits of it. You can start actually using all that time when you're dreaming towards developing skills or towards learning. For example, I used to, when I was in college, I started to try and learn for some exams in my dreams, and it worked. Not completely, it wasn't fully efficient like I was awake, but it's still the knowledge I already had, I could just repeat it in my dream and make it more concrete, let's say. I could reiterate it and so on. Or you can deal with trauma. You can talk to whatever image you have of the people that caused you drama and try to forgive them, or whatever you feel the way to deal with the trauma is, and so on. There are a lot of ways you can use your brain to use your life per se. That's how I like to say it.
Honestly, it's so true. Like I talk about all the time, like all the millions of benefits of learning how to lucid dream. And it takes practice, for people listening to this. Like it's definitely something that it's not just, oh, let me just do this tonight. It takes practice and, it's a journey. And like you said, at first your lucid dreams might be short. But the more lucid dreams I have, I definitely resonate with you. Like I start to just get better at it the more I'm focused on it. But as somebody that can easily be like, oh, I'm going to do this tonight because I know I'll be lucid in every dream ever. Does it feel like you don't get conscious rest? Like, because I know a lot of people say, oh, I get exhausted after I have so many lucid dreams. Some people wake up feeling more refreshed. This is a debate that I get all the time online. So you personally, I know everybody's different.
I get exhausted for sure. Thankfully, I discovered meditation and more likely resting my mind I think is a better word. At a pretty young age, I was like 11 or 12. I started doing martial arts, and every single class we had started and ended in meditation, at least 1 minute, in which all of us just were sitting and just trying to disconnect with the reality. When you are in that state of mind with a lot of other people doing the same thing with you, you start to feel a kind of energy. You feel like you're all connected and you're all there for the same reason, I guess. And that's really changed the way I started doing my daily life. I meditate at least 5 or 6 times a day. I don't do long meditation. I don't like go for a half an hour or zoom out of the world. I'm out in front of the building at work and I'm just smoking a cigarette alone with some music in my headphones and just fade away, let's say, from reality and just go into my thoughts or just think of nothing. It depends on what I want at the moment. But meditation is a big thing when you want to rest your mind. That's what it works for me, and that's what I think works for other people. I talked to other Omnis, and they all said they use meditation pretty consistently, at least once a day, at least. The ones I talked to, at least.
Wow. Why do you think that is? I mean, I've heard people talk about how meditation is conscious sleep. It's like rest in a way while you're awake.
Because I believe through meditation, you disconnect from the external world and you focus only on the internal world. And that's what lets you rest, per se. You don't have all the inputs that you have to think about when you are in the normal day. You just have to live. You just have to stay in that moment and just focus on yourself and nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. No vision, no sounds, nothing from the exterior. And that's what helps. Basically, resting yourself. I'm helping one guy from the experiment. He's trying to achieve all the awareness, and I'm helping him through the whole path. And after a few days of just thinking over and over, being aware of all the action he's doing, he started to understand what I told him at the beginning, that meditation will be so important that he won't even believe it. And he said that meditation is his favorite part of the day because it's just so restful after you're fully aware of all the actions you do in a day, that it's just it's like the cup of coffee in the morning.
What's it like meditating in a dream versus meditating in waking life?
The main difference, I believe, is the fact that you don't have to concentrate on cutting the exterior. In a lucid dreaming, you just cut it. Just poof, and it's gone, and it's just a black thing with your conscious in there and nothing else. And it can be frightening, to be honest, because when you see all that emptiness and it's just you and your thoughts and nothing else, it can be frightening at first, but after maybe like 10 seconds, you'll start to feel completely at ease, I think is the best way to describe it. You feel extremely calm. You don't feel any other emotion than calmness. You can achieve that in a normal meditation, but I think there need to be some external factors too that take this into account, like being all alone, let's say on top of a mountain in Himalaya or something, that might have the same effect, I think.
Yeah,
And I
it's
really want to go on that kind of journey, going into a completely spiritual way of living for like, I don't know, months. Just try it out to see what that's like. Because normal life is so different from that we just forget that that parts also exist. The healing and I don't want to call it soul. I don't like that terminology. Your consciousness. That's how I like to call it.
Do you feel like, if you wanted to go meditate on top of the Himalayas, you could create that dreamscape? Every time you think of something cool you could do, you're like, oh, well, I can just experience it in a dream. And do you feel like that experience of like traveling to Paris or whatever gives you like that same sort of like fulfillment of having experienced that?
If I would say it at a shallow level, yes, but at a deep level, no. Because if you're lucid, you know you're dreaming and you know that experience isn't real.
Right.
So if you start like just having this like a second of that thought will ruin your experience, to be honest. So no, I don't think you can exchange it per se. It's still something you need to do with your conscious real world because that's when the really important things happen. And that's what I think is also really important to people who start in lucidity. Don't put a real world on the second spot and dream world on the first spot. Real world is still there, always there. Every time you wake up and go to sleep, it's still in between those points.
Yeah, that's a really good thing that you say, especially because, it's important to have balance and to understand that you have to still put in the work and focus on your waking life. A lot of people, especially people that are new to lucid dreaming, they obsess a lot. I want to get lucid. I want to get lucid. They get tunnel vision. They forget about their non-lucid dreams. But I tell people don't obsess over getting lucid.
Something you said about, knowing that it is an artificial environment and that sort of ruins your experience. What's your opinion on the dream unconsciously creating itself? Do you find yourself in a pre-established environment, that has its own laws of physics and its own plot with its own characters? Or is it like the moment you become lucid, you're at a blank canvas and you need to sort of imagine exactly what you're seeing and experiencing?
Um, for me personally, I have multiple permanent realms. That's what they're called, or that's how what I know the terminology is. So I have multiple, let's say, universes in which my consciousness resides in my dreams. And different characters are there, different people, different places, different languages even. For some reason, I have a thing about languages. I love languages so much and it affects my dreams. I basically invented in one of my realms a language which I can't even describe it.
What's it
Like
sound like?
I know it's there, and it's like the gaming world terminology. It's like when you load in, you already know all the things prior to it. You still have all the knowledge before it, and then you just develop on that knowledge to a new spot, and then you go back to another realm, and then you come, and then so on. You just perpetually make it
It
bigger
really is
and
like
bigger.
gaming. You're loading into your map that you're creating every time.
Yeah, that's why I'm not sure. I'm really curious because I'd really like to speak to someone who is an Omni and doesn't have any gaming experience to see if that also applies, to see if that's specifically because of the influence gaming had on me, or if it's something that's not normal. It's like a default setting.
Yeah, maybe video games and computer science and everything is our most technical way of projecting this otherwise unconscious experience we all have. I'm very curious about the aspect of control and what that's like for you. I'd imagine that being Omni, your lucidity allows for more control because you've harnessed that ability over time.
Yeah, I
But
have basically I have total control. Like I can what I do because I don't want to interfere with my subconscious. I like to just let it go. Let my subconscious create and I just interact with it. That's what I like to do. But when I feel like the direction my dream is heading or I'm just bored of the dream or whatever reason I just decide, no, I'm out of here and then I just do whatever I want.
In all your dreams ever, even since childhood, full control.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was full control. Like every aspect of it. I had some dreams where I just changed the laws of physics. I would just say, oh, no more friction, just like in all the physics problems. You don't take friction into account. Then I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I can just slide my finger on anything and it doesn't do any force on me. And it was really weird. I couldn't walk. I would sleep constantly
that's
and
funny.
so on. Yeah, it was
I've,
really funny. It was interesting to do.
yeah, I've done some fun like physics bending things. And even as a regular lucid dreamer, sometimes I just go along with the narrative of the dream. If I try to do too much, the dream has a mind of its own. I don't always have full control. Even when I do, the dream does random things sometimes. And I know that that depends on my thought and my expectations and stuff like that. So there's factors to it. But sometimes when I just let the dream show me things and I'm just a conscious observer, like it's really cool. I don't have to be controlling and doing things all the time.
Observing the dream is really, really powerful, in my opinion. I think it's more powerful than total control because it lets you see a side of you that you don't know. You don't know your subconscious. You don't know what you are actually thinking. You just know what conscious you is doing and conscious you is thinking. So interacting with that can be sometimes life-changing or can reveal some things you've never thought of or
Yeah.
realize things you thought you might have gone over it and thought of everything, and then your subconscious just boom, another idea, boom, another thing. And that
So
can be really powerful.
I'm wondering, that's the positive side of it, but have you ever had lucid nightmares where you're not necessarily in control?
I was always per se in control, because then again, I told you I have total control, but I let my dreams govern me. I want to experience that part too. I want to experience what not having control does. And it can be really frightening, to be honest, sometimes. Like in certain dreams, I almost woke up in tears and in terror and with a panic attack and everything. So yeah, that can also happen when you just let your mind go free. So I think there needs to be a balance between the two. You still need to learn your subconscious, but you need to keep it in check. Like not let it wreak havoc on your conscious mind, because that can also be really damaging.
Dreams definitely have an effect on the psyche. Even lucid dreams, when you know it's a dream, it can still be scary and affect your whole next day. So I
Yeah.
definitely can relate.
Your conscious experiences with playing with the laws of physics, have you ever found yourself disembodied in a way? Like, do you feel like, inhabiting your physical form allows you to better interact with that sort of environment? Or have you ever explored just pure consciousness?
I explore it quite often, to be honest, trying to not have a body and just observe the world or observe the people around me without my interaction, like people in my dream. That's what I mean. But
Is that like a third
like,
person perspective? Are you like omnipresent, you know?
uh, it's not it's not fully omnipresence. It's more like it's like a free camera. You can move everywhere, you can see everything, but you have to actively look on it. You don't have the inactive knowledge. If you don't look at it, you don't know it. That's what it does for me, at least. I tried to do some omniscience things in my dreams. The problem with it is that when you're trying that, you're starting to, let's say, divert your mind. Not sure how to give it a better term. Your mind goes into so many places so quickly, so fast, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you get all the knowledge needed to create, let's say, the subconscious into your subconscious, that it's really, really tiring. And after a few minutes of doing that, you're just completely exhausted. That's one of the few times that I just went blank in a dream. Like I couldn't dream anymore because of that.
It was like so much at once
There
that you
were so many things going and so many things that were affecting me that I couldn't really just keep up with it. And my mind was just went, okay, you need to sleep, go to sleep. Basically.
So how often do you get this dreamless sleep?
I guess it depends on how tired I am from the day. If I am extremely tired, like I had a really long day, I had to drive, I had to go from one place to another, solve things, do things, I would get like a 50% chance of getting a no dream sleep. It still happens, even if I'm really tired, but a lot less often.
Hmm. So we talked about a few things that, you do during your waking life that may or may not influence your ability to be omni, such as video games and meditation. Are there any other things such as drugs or alcohol that you can do in order to not be omni in every dream? Like, will that allow you to have more dreamless sleep?
Well, alcohol has the biggest effect on that for me. Whenever I drink, the chances of me getting an actual dream are really small. Like heavy drinking, not just having a beer. Like going to a party and drinking a lot. More than likely, like 95% chance that I won't dream at all. I just blank and then wake up. Nothing, absolutely nothing in between. Which I guess is pretty normal because your mind still needs rest, especially after so much alcohol and partying and all those things. I don't do any more parties and alcohol at the time, so haven't really experienced it in the past few months. But I know for sure it happened to me. I do some other drugs in the meantime, and they don't really have an effect. I do only weed, and that had no effect on my actual dreaming. I don't know, maybe that's just me or just a really small percentage of maybe dreaming less. That would be the only effect. It would bring me to dreaming.
What about clarity? We talked about control.
Oh, yeah, no, clarity. It does change clarity, though. Yeah, now that I think, yeah, it does change clarity. The dreams are way more slow paced.
Yeah, gotcha.
They are still,
Interesting.
for me, they are still clear. Like it's just everything moves slowly, and everything goes like in a 0.05 speed.
Have you ever tried dreaming supplements like galantamine or even like B6 or anything like
No,
that? Don't do any of
I
that.
don't, I never did any kind of medication that would alter my
Yeah, not that you
let's
need
say
it,
mind.
but just curious.
The
Interesting.
closest thing I did was some hard pills. Yeah, it made you really sleepy after you took one. That changed my dreams in a pretty dramatic way. They would be a lot more dark. They would be some dark dreams, like dark themes, dark, pretty depressive things in my dreams because of that. I'm not sure what the actual name of the pills were. I needed them, so it wasn't really an option of not taking them. That's what it did to my brain. It made me it gave me some pretty dark thoughts in that period, and it affected my dreams too.
I would say just because we're talking about the content of your dreams, describe a little bit more of what your actual sleep schedule is like. Is there a reason? So are you like deprived of sleep and you're just constantly in a state of REM rebound? How would you describe your habits around sleep and what your typical routine looks like?
I sleep a lot. All my friends know, every single friend I have knows that I sleep a lot. I love sleeping. Even though I don't really have all the time in the world that I would like sleep. If I could, I always say this. If I could, I would sleep 24/7. But not just because of lucidity. I love sitting in bed. I love resting because for me, resting is just a moment when I'm just me and my thoughts, and I love that. That's what it has
Have you,
always been with me. I love just thinking.
are there any, negative associations with this condition, if you will? Because being with your thoughts, you've learned to cultivate that and use it to your advantage in a way that allows you to better operate in your waking life. Or that, is that something that's always been for you, or is that something you had to work on?
My constant awareness also has the side effects of me questioning every single thing I do. I'm always questioning myself. I'm always questioning every decision I take and overthink it. I try to do it less often now. I'm trying to teach myself to not overthink things, just go with the flow. And sometimes that bites me back. And quite often, to be honest, I'm I like to think of what I do and what I choose as thorough as I can. I don't take decisions on a whim at all because of this. So I think of every single aspect, every single thing, even though some people would say that I don't usually do that. I actually do. It just happens in that moment. I just choose to go with the flow and let it be, per se. Because you can't really control everything, even if you think of it completely. You don't know all the factors, every variable that can go into that problem. Some people might say that thinking of things ahead of time is useless because you never know what can happen. I don't believe that's true. You can know the possibilities, you just don't know which.
Have you used that for precognitive? Like, have you ever asked yourself, I need these lottery numbers for tomorrow morning?
I tried with the lottery numbers, and unfortunately, doesn't work.
Did you have anything worked though? You said you had some successes.
I used to, when I had a stressful day, or I would have something important to do, or I would have some important speech to do, or anything like that. I would rehearse it in my sleep until I get it exactly how I want it. Or if I had a multiple action problem, like I had to go from there, solve that, solve that, solve that, solve that, I would just reset every point in the action and try to do it the best I can, and to try to leave, per se, every scenario so I know how to react to it to solve the problem. I'm not sure if that you would call that recon. I would just call it prepare yourself for things. I never had anything of just I feel like tomorrow is gonna rain and tomorrow is gonna rain. Nothing like that.
Like, let's say you're looking for like a keyword or an answer to something that you don't know in waking life, and then you go, I don't know, ask dream characters for it and try to find the answer in your dream. Like maybe.
Oh, that can happen. Like, but as I experimented with it, I saw that if it's knowledge that would be completely out of my possession, like no way of me knowing it, it wouldn't work. It has to be things that I have a chance of knowing, even the slightest chance, like seeing it passing within the bus, passing it by the street and seeing something. I can recall that. But if it's something that I have no chance of knowing or experiencing or anything, it's not consistent. It can work, it might not work. It's chances, just like normal thing.
The way I think of it is simulation theory, right? So it's like you can take, sensory input from your past and use it to project forward in a way where you may be able to predict, but you're not claiming that it's some sort of astral projection that allows you to gain access to information that you would otherwise have no information about.
You know what you know. You can't learn something without experiencing it. That's how I think of it. Even reading, I don't believe reading is actual full learning something. It's just you learn this information, but you don't learn the thing that information is. So unless you experience it or know in a way that you can actually make use of it, it's not really knowing it. It's just I have some information about it. Information is also useful, I'm not saying it's not. It's just it's a different kind of thing.
Sure.
Pre-con is, I think, way more difficult. It's a way more difficult problem. Some people have it, like my mom has a pretty weird experience with that. Everything she dreams happens at some point.
When you were talking about, remembering your dreams and them being really long dreams, do you remember every detail of the whole dream when you wake up, or do you process it to remember it as the dream is happening? Or
it's just like you would remember normal life. That's how I describe it. If you pay attention to it, you know it. If you don't pay attention to it, you can create it. It might not be true. It might be true. There's a chance there. I'm treating my dreams as I would treat technically normal life, but if I put my mind to it, like if I want to, I can remember every detail. It just would take some time to, let's say, relive every moment, because I have it in somewhere. There's somewhere in my brain that has that. It's just not in my immediate use per se.
That makes sense. Like if I were to try to remember every detail of what I did yesterday, like I could do it, but
Yeah,
it would take me a minute. So I could see how
exactly.
that makes sense. It would be just like being consciously aware. So how like the connection to your waking life, like how mindfully aware are you throughout the day? Do you ever just go on autopilot or like does that lucidity transfer over into your waking life?
I think that's one of the things that actually made me an Omni. I am 99.9% of the time completely aware of every action I'm doing, of every thought I'm having, of every single thing I'm doing. Like I'm now playing with a lighter. I just know I'm talking to you and I'm still conscious of every single texture on it, every single crevice, everything. And both talking and both watching both of you. I'm aware of all those things at the same time. And I always had that. I was able to concentrate on multiple things at the same time a lot. I always learn with music. To reiterate it, I can't learn without music. It's impossible for me. For some reason. I'm not sure if it's something due to my how my brain works or whatever. If I don't listen to music when I'm learning, I can't learn. Because I associate the music with what I'm learning, with the words I'm reading, or with the problems, or the formulas, or whatever I'm learning at that point.
So that reminds me of an old psychology trick I heard once where you chew a specific kind of gum while you're studying for a specific exam.
Hmm.
And then by having that same gum during the actual exam, you'll be able to more easily recall that information due to association.
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot of sense.
can you tell me a little bit more about what awareness really means for you? I mean, you described it briefly as like you know exactly what you're doing. You're aware of other sensory input, such as, what other people are doing. It seems to me like music somehow satisfies that stimulation, and
Yeah,
allows
yeah.
you to focus more on what you're trying to focus on rather than everything all at once.
Yeah, music helps me focus a lot. I listen to as much music as I can. I had on Spotify recap I had in 2018 like more than 140 days of continuous music playing.
That's
Music
good.
is music is one of the biggest things in my life, to be honest. I love music. It's just my one of my favorite things.
What kind of music? Is it like heavy metal screamo, something you really need to drown
I
out?
listen to that too. I listen to mellow metal too. I listen to rap. I listen to atmospheric music. I listen to almost everything. I
Mm.
listen to there's a thing called in Romania. It's like weird electronic Balkanic music, which people in Romania see as a pretty uncultured music, let's say.
So all day awareness, how might somebody who, you know, doesn't do that already, how might they practice all day awareness?
Well, there are a few steps you need to take into account, and the biggest thing that you need to decide before going for all day awareness is decide if you really want to do it, because it's a hard process. It takes a lot of your mental capacity, and um, at the beginning, before you start to develop it as a habit. The main idea is that you have to be conscious that every action you are doing, you are a conscious being doing it. You are a thing that does that. That's how I explained it to one of the guys. You just have to repeat in your mind, I'm getting my phone case. I am getting my phone case. I am getting my lighter. For everything you do, I'm moving my head, I'm raising a finger, everything. And you have to develop that as good as you can so that that will start to run in the background, let's say. You won't have to do it consciously anymore after a while. But until then, it's really hard. It's really taking a toll on your mental capacity and on your energy because you have to do it for everything. Everything. Some people start with just doing the main actions and then they start to go into details. That's what he's doing right now. He asked me if he should describe what he's seeing in a video, which is pretty specific things. You're watching videos. There are a lot of things happening there, and you are aware of the things. And he asked me if he has to describe everything in the movies or in the video, and I told him if it doesn't take you away from the actual video, like doesn't affect your real life, if you can do it, do it. If not, just let it be later when you are better at this, per se. Because once you start doing it, you'll start to, that's what he told me to, and that's what I've seen in the past too with other people. You start to realize what is useful and what isn't, which is a really powerful skill in my opinion. If you know what it is useful to you, you know to repeat it. If you know what's not useful to you, you know to not repeat it. You start to basically rate your life, per se. Which for some people they might like it, they might not. Because once you start doing this, you realize how many useful and useless things we do, especially useless. Because as always, negative emotions are more powerful than positive ones. So when you feel useless, you'll feel a lot worse than when you feel good that you did something good.
And what's so bad about realizing or recognizing that, right? It may be hard at first. It might be really tough to face that reality. I kind of associate it with, this might be a little off topic, but my experience with psychedelics, draw connections and associations to things you might not otherwise, associate together. And it shows you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like if you're not mentally prepared to face reality without the filter of, your emotions, then it can be rather unsettling. And I always recommend some deep work that goes into the preparation.
Exactly.
Almost cleanse your body and mind, because if you're, bogged down through use of drugs, and you're not mentally clear, your body, you're not in good health, then those are all things that might distract from that internal experience. Yeah, it could be hard taking a tough look at, what matters in life and what makes a difference, what makes you feel good versus what makes you feel bad. But I can imagine you can use that to your advantage.
It is certainly a big advantage, but for someone who isn't stable at the moment, or someone who just isn't ready at that moment, it's not something to be worried about. It's just, it will be hard, and you have to accept that and make sure you know all the consequences that go from that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair warning.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can benefit from being more consciously aware, which is essentially what lucidity is. You have more chances of being lucid in a dream, the more lucid and consciously aware you are in waking life of your actions and just more present.
As you get more advanced, you'll start to actually do it subconsciously. And once you start doing it subconsciously, that's what I believe at least, and that's what I've seen in to other people, I think. They started to have lucid dreams more often, naturally, because they would just know, oh, I like in the subconscious, I did this, and the step before that was that, and the step before that was that, and the step before, and so on and so on. And you could trace every action. And that way, in a dream, when you have this skill per se, automatic, you'll start to think of all the actions you've did in a dream, and you'll realize every action started to when you went to sleep, and you'll know you went to sleep, so you'll be in a dream. That's how I see it personally. That's why I'm treating all the awareness and meditation as really important parts for actually achieving lucidity in a healthy and constant way. I know my actions before going to sleep, in my sleep.
So you were conscious throughout the whole process of falling asleep, like throughout
completely
the
conscious.
hypnagogic, all those half drowsy dreams, and then as soon as the dream starts, you're still consciously aware through the whole.
Yeah, it's a continuous process. I actually talked to Night Owl yesterday about this, and I was falling asleep. I was pretty tired, and before I went to sleep, I could leave the dream without being asleep. I would know the actions I was doing without actually seeing per se. I felt when my body went numb. I felt when my head went numb too. I felt when I couldn't move anything anymore. I felt when my vision went completely dark. I'm not sure if that's something that's common or not. When I go into that state of not having any more body functions, let's say, or controlled body actions, my mind goes wild and it starts to produce a lot of shapes and colors, and just like in a psychedelic way per se. And it does that automatically when I'm really close to going asleep. And right before this thing with the forms and colors, my dreams, that's when what I've seen at least, my dreams start. And I can hear voices in my head. I can hear actions happening. I can feel actions happening. I can feel myself reacting to the dream world without being in it, I guess. Like the loading. I am aware in the loading of the world.
Interesting.
I think that's the best way to describe it. When I wake up, it's just a transition. It's just boom, you're awake. And I'm not sure why. I've talked with a few people about this, but I never had a sleep paralysis. Never in my life. I never had woke up and couldn't control my body and started to hallucinate or however you would describe sleep paralysis. It never happened to me. I wake up, I have control. I decide to stay in bed because that's what I like, but I have control. I am there. I am awake. My mind is there. My eyes don't usually work in the morning. I have a problem with that, but that's a medical problem.
So what I think may be associated with some sort of ramatonia, and we've discussed before how you enter REM periods much sooner than the average person, which typically takes around 90 minutes of sleep. And there are such things as REM rebound, but you've described that you get plenty of sleep normally, right? And that
Yeah.
you're not necessarily drowning out, your subconscious with, stimulants or depressants or anything like that. So tell us a little bit more about, the biological component here. And maybe we can get into a little debate about nature versus nurture.
Well, I used to have a smartwatch with which it would track my sleep. I think more than 90% of the data of every night I've seen was said that I started REM in a maximum of 20 minutes from when I started sleeping. A maximum of 20. Most of them were 15, 14, 17, that range. Maybe some 23, but still under half an hour, all of them. And I'm not sure if that's common or not. From what I heard, it's not. You can see how it starts at like 17 minutes. It goes for like 15 minutes, then normal sleep, another 10, and then again 5 minutes of REM, and so on and so on. I'm not really sure how that works, and it goes throughout the whole night. There was I think in the one I've sent, there was a gap of like 2 hours of no REM, like in the middle of the sleep.
Mm-hmm.
There was that's when the deep sleep went.
Have you ever had any difficulty with digestion, or let's say physical healing, or like if you exercise, do you experience like extended periods of soreness or anything like that? Because I'm wondering if there's some sort of physical effect on your lack of deep sleep. Like, have you ever been sick for an extended period of time?
No, I'm a really healthy person in general, except the fact that I'm a bit overweight. Otherwise, I'm completely healthy.
But no real specific issues with like gastrointestinal,
Nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. I have an incredibly healthy
Diet?
no, I don't. I have the worst diet ever. I eat a lot of bad
Okay.
things, and I know
Okay.
I do, but I love them, and I
Wow.
can't really hold myself on that. When I was active, I would get some really, really, really good sleep. I would sleep full 8 hours every night with a really good schedule and everything. But I guess that's what being active also helps you a lot. That's why I think it's really important to be physically active. Just even just going for a run every day, it helps you a lot. I hate running personally. Do biking if that works better for you. Just do anything that's remotely active. We live so much in our houses, especially now with a lot of people just working from home. We still have physical bodies. We still need to train them. We still need to do something with them. Otherwise, they'll just go bad for us.
Are there any other biological components you associate with, the uniqueness of your condition?
I'm not sure if that's really associated. I think it has something to do with the clarity of my dreams, but I have extremely good eyesight, even though I wear glasses. These are just for my computer, so I can keep my eyesight. I have extremely, extremely good sight. I can see things from really far out and really clearly, and I can read text from a huge distance. I'm not sure. Maybe that might have something to do with the clarity of my dreams. Maybe. I don't know. Because if in general my life is really clear, I guess my dreams will be clear too, I think. I would
That does
really
make
be
sense.
interested to see if people with really bad eyesight, if they have fuzzy dreams, like lucid fuzzy dreams.
Actually, topic of discussion with somebody else that appeared as an anomaly through this experiment, Skyfall, Blind Dreamer.
Hmm. Oh,
He's
yeah.
with me extensively about how his dreams are and sort of like the mental projections that he experiences. He went blind at an early age. He wasn't born blind. So one of the things that we've discussed is what do his dreams, quote unquote, look like. It's very much the same as his experience during waking life. The best way I can describe it is he lives in the world's largest memory palace. Everywhere he
Okay.
goes, he's making associations about textures and sounds and context surrounding, where he's at and why, or who else is there, or the function of a place, smells, all of it. So it's interesting that your visual acuity lends itself to, your ability to visualize in the dream. But in his case, and I don't want to speak on his behalf too much, but the way he describes it is the lack of visual input allows him to organize his thoughts in such a linear way that it carries over to the content of his dreams. And it very much is the same mental experience as if he were awake.
Okay. Really interesting. It doesn't have any visual cues, right?
He
He
does.
just oh, he does?
He describes it very much as, and this may just be one aspect of it, but he says things have light and dark shades.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be based on several factors like depth, for example,
Yeah.
or you
Okay.
know sound. Something may appear brighter,
Mhm.
and his mental map. That's the best way I can describe. I need to have many more conversations to really understand what that is like. In so many ways, we describe the world through a visual sense. That in talking with him, first of all, I had to politely ask him to slow down because he was like 3 chapters ahead of me, whereas I'm like still trying to like parse words on a single page. And he's just so quick witted and intelligent with everything he talks about. He has memories from, years, if not decades past that
Hmm.
he can pull up like a filing cabinet and
Yeah.
make, so many quantum connections there that it's very interesting to hear what a dream is like without that visual nature.
Yeah, it's crazy. Everybody perceives the world differently and everybody dreams differently. Some people have a visual narrative, some people dream in abstract thoughts or just even image flashes, not like a video type narrative
Wow.
experience. Some people even dream in black and white. I was talking to somebody today that's had some grayscale dreams. And
Okay.
another thing I've noticed is I normally dream as myself as the dream character, but some people are always a random dream avatar.
I've been a different person in a dream. The best way I could rationalize it was like a past life or something. Like it was very much me in a different body with different past experiences, and like everything about who I was as a person changed. It was like reading a good book with a strong narrative voice, and you just sort of inhabit that character.
Yeah.
Not really sure what else to make of it.
Yeah, it's pretty common actually for me to just go into other dream characters' bodies, and for me, it actually transfers to their thoughts too and their emotions. I'm not really sure how to describe that other than just loading into another character. I don't really
But
have
do you
another way
feel
to
like
explain
it's
it.
still you making conscious lucid decisions, just kind of with the
I
filter
still
of their
feel like
character?
it's like I'm controlling something that has complete connection to me. So it connects completely in regards to feelings, to sensations, to everything. But I still have some part of me, of the conscious me. My conscious me is not this one. It's not this bearded, bear-looking guy. It's just something. I can't really describe it,
Like,
and it has no shape, no color, no sense, no anything. It's just there. It's my thoughts that are the consciousness inside my head.
the clear light of consciousness is what the Buddhists would call it. And I think it's kind of like when you play a video game, you know, you have yourself, then you have the dream character or the avatar. And I think our waking life works a lot like that in terms of like our inner consciousness that is beyond just our physical body that we choose to play.
That's why I never really cared about looks or anything regarding to other people. I try as much as I can to not judge people based on that because it's just one really small, extremely small thing that describes a person. It's just it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter how someone looks or feels or what I think is the most important about a person. That's how I'm looking at other people too, is what they say and what they do. Because I can't know what they're thinking, of course, but those are the direct effects of what they're thinking. That's what I'm looking most at. If I see someone that says, "Oh, I'm all good, I'm all whatever," and they hurt people or they are mean, consciously mean, then I don't want to hang out with that person because that means that their thoughts are mean. That's how I see it, and that's how I try to see myself too. I try to, as much as I can, to not, and I think that's one of my biggest. I have some big personality rules that I don't. I try as much as I can to not
Vibe.
go over. Yeah.
Mm.
So one of those ways just I should never lie to myself, and
Beautiful.
that's a big thing for me. If I know something is bad for me, even though I cry to other people about it, I love to to cry myself a little bit to other people. I like a bit of attention as anyone does, but I don't do it just because I just want attention. I always feel the need to be understood, and I always try to express myself as clear as I can, even though sometimes it doesn't work as best as I want. Because you have thoughts and then you have words. They are two different things. They don't translate always perfectly how you want it, and that's completely normal.
One of my favorite Buddhist koans is your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your character, and
Yeah,
your character becomes you. And it starts with just a thought. And although your words aren't the whole story, right? It makes up a fraction of that projection. It sounds like you and I could get together and have a good cry about some of the more meaningful moments in our life. I've never cried so much as a first time parent. I have no idea why. It was like this last year has been such an emotional roller coaster, maybe due in part to a lack of sleep. But I'm wondering if there quirks you have about you that I haven't quite explored yet. Like, have you taken any personality or IQ tests?
I did the 16 personalities once.
Six.
I found it as the most personally again. I found it as pretty comprehensive, and for me at least, it was consistent. Even though my answers would change like by a small percentage because I always try again to stay true to myself and answer honestly as as best as I can. I would always get the same personality. I am INTG J, I think it's called. It's called the analyst, but the problem I have with it, and that's I think the only problem, is I'm a perfectly 50-50 ambivert. So I would sometimes get an I, sometimes get an E, like an extrovert or an introvert, because I'm right in the middle on that spectrum. Exactly in the middle.
Okay. What about IQ?
The IQ tests I did, I'm not sure they are just on the internet tests, so they're not completely
Control.
trustworthy, I guess. Like they clearly have some good things about them, and from what I've heard, IQ tests in general are one of the the most researched psychometrics in psychology. I mean, if you can confirm that or deny it, what I heard, the IQ itself has been studied ever since like the 1910s. And one of the requirements to join the US Army is taking an IQ test. And if you have an IQ under 83, you're not allowed to join the army, which is pretty weird. Regarding IQ itself, the ones I did, the results I got were around 135, which I believe to be pretty credible. I'm a pretty brainy guy. I know a lot of things. I'm a physicist, so that's a pretty normal thing, I guess, to have a bit higher IQ than normal.
I would love to hear more about this nature versus nurture, because it sounds like you have so many aspects of your waking life that lend themselves to lucidity. It's hard for me to really say affirmatively you are omni because you were born this way, or there's some kind of biological component that makes you, such a rare breed. The only thing I've heard throughout our conversation today is your rematonia and the speed at which you enter REM is much sooner than the average person. But so many other things like your all day awareness, practicing meditation, your profession, your personality, your IQ, they all seem to be associated with higher levels of lucidity in waking life, which also transitions to the dream. And you've been doing this at such an early age, right? It's like somebody like me, I've been studying this for just over a decade now, and it's come and gone in waves due to personal life choices and just my ability to focus on it. I'm wondering if this is something we can cultivate, from
Yeah.
you, if we just figure out which, traits are associated with lucidity. If I could teach that to somebody from an
hmm
early age and ultimately produce an omni, or is this something that, there is a some sort of hereditary notion to be acknowledged? I'd like to hear more about your parents even, and what their relationship was like with their dreams. At an early age, you were having such mind-bending experiences and nightmares that appeared, maybe even traumatizing at times for such, a young person. How did your parents treat these experiences? Did they ever have in-depth conversations with you about their own dreams or what they mean and how you should handle them?
When I was a kid, my parents, whenever I had a nightmare, that's what they told me at least. I don't really have much of a memory back then, since I was so young, but they told me that they would just call me, tell me that it's all a dream and it's fine, it's okay, and they would like try to get me back to sleep. If I couldn't go to sleep, they would just take me in the car and go for a quick drive and get me to sleep. That was a quick hack that they had with me. No, they wouldn't treat dreams as a special thing. They would treat it just, oh, it's a everyday thing that happens to everyone. I found out 2 weeks ago that my father is also basically an Omni. He's not completely in control like I am, because I guess he didn't have an interest in trying to do that. But he says at least that he knows when he's dreaming. He knows what he's dreaming. He knows what his actions are in the dream. My father would always tell me that actions have consequences, and he always taught me to think of my actions as much as I can and balance things out and try to think of things as thoroughly as I can. And I think that's what might have also been a factor in my Omni and my actual awareness, I guess.
Yeah,
He basically trained me.
Even if he didn't know he was Omni and he was passing on, it's a thought process too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's exactly like that. He thinks of everything so thoroughly, and every single bit, every single little thought, every single idea, he has to go through it completely. Like now I'm trying to move to Finland, and he's gonna help me with moving, and he keeps calling me every day. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Every single day with a new thing that I have to take into account. And that's how the way he is. And that's what I'm doing, but in a more mellow way than he is. I might get to that point when I'm at his age, I guess. But I think he started it this way too,
Well,
with trying to be aware of his actions and be aware of what he does.
I would also say parenthood is also, it's a very,
Yeah.
think of taking your heart and just ripping it out of your chest and putting it in a little person's hands and hoping that they just, do well with it. That constant, let's call it overly analytical or self-critical mindset is now imparted onto another person because you're responsible for them. And
Yeah,
even
totally
adult,
see that.
that's something that stays with you, right? So it's almost heightened in a sense, because you don't have that aspect of control. And I also would like to mention that, through this experiment, I've been recruiting friends and family as much as possible to get involved because we do need a larger control group to balance out the amount of people who want to participate, which is great. But I keep getting on my father. I'm like, you need to do your survey. You need to do this. You need to do that. And he's like, well, I don't need to do this. I already know I'm dreaming. And we got into a conversation about, what his dreams are like. And it seems from an early age, he claims to have some sort of omni condition, which may or may not explain my own affinity towards lucidity. But then I got to wondering, especially in talking with you, Nuke, how do I know that's what he's really experiencing? Like, I don't want to be dismissive. I don't
Of
want to say
course.
that you don't know that you're dreaming, like you don't really know what that means. But in talking with him, it seems he actually might. I mean, there's definitely a lack of control. He explains, "Oh, I just know it's a dream. I just, I'll go along with it." Or like if I wake up, I can, control what I dream about, or I can slightly steer. It seems like he's definitely lacking in control, but you don't have to have any control or clarity even to recognize that it's a dream, which is
Yeah.
the definition of lucidity.
Yep.
And so I started probing
Definitely.
him about his parents and what their relationship with dreams were like. And it seems his mother had an abnormal dream recall, and she explained it in a spiritual way. She thought she was psychic because she had so many experiences that seemed to repeat themselves in waking life. So I'm just wondering, how do we really go about, sorting out the true omni from people who just sort of don't know how to relate to their dreams?
That's a really hard question, to be honest. Because
Helped you.
unfortunately, dreams happen only in our heads. There are experiments which can prove someone's lucidity, but most of them are really expensive. Yeah, they are definitive. They work and they certainly prove, but they are time consuming. They are pretty energy wasteful. They are really expensive. So the actual laboratory tests are pretty hard to do. I'm still thinking of ways to actually prove someone's lucidity. The way I described it to you before, and I think it still stands, is the emotion when you are describing things. You can't really lie when you're talking about something if you have emotion. Unless you're a psychopath or something like that,
Yeah.
you can't really lie to your emotions or to yourself. Basically, if their emotions show that what they're saying is true, it's a really, really high chance that that's true. One way too could be, but then again, it can be warped to make them do some test, like, oh, tonight, tomorrow night, and the third night, you're gonna keep a dream journal and you're gonna dream of exactly this thing. Maybe he will or he will not do it in a true manner.
Let me ask you something. This might be a little off topic, but it resonated with what you said. What is more rare, an omni-lucid or a psychopath or a sociopath? Depending on your definition.
I'm not sure of the percentages. I know psychopaths are under 1% of the population,
Mm-hmm.
and
So
omnis are, from what I heard. Then again, don't take my words for granted. That's just what I heard from the internet. It's information that is not verified. I heard it's around like 1 in 500,000, 1 in 1 million people have omni lucidity naturally.
even less
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
So it would fair to reason, and I hope that the people in this experiment acknowledge this statement. If we did in fact naturally discover Omni lucids through our sampling, right, which was a very diligent process of itself, that we may or may not have come across potential psychopath who gets off on the imitation of such a condition and the convincing of others in order to fit in or for whatever, let's say malicious intent. I myself looked into some of these numbers, and obviously the data can be skewed because not all psychopaths commit crimes.
Yeah.
Some of the studies are, connecting to, let's say, people who got caught, as opposed to people who
Hmm.
found out and can
Yeah.
manipulate, the data in that way. So maybe the percentage is higher than what it's revealed to be. But again, from my experience with dreaming in and of itself and dream recall and lucidity, I would argue that's much more rare. And, I would ultimately argue that many more studies have been done on, the psychoanalysis of people in that social context than what we've delved into with dreams.
Yep.
Um, so just something to think about. Something that highly concerns me and my protective nature. I'm also highly paranoid, and I have come across some people who seem to have bad intentions for the study and the sake of a community. And I'm just wondering how can we verify somebody's account without access to a lab setting? Personality may be one thing, IQ may be another. Obviously, you can't really fake that, right? How are you going to cheat on a or how are you going to fake empathy? But there are other unconventional ways we've discussed, such as transhumanism or the utilization of sleep tech.
Yeah.
And
That's
you
one of the things I really want to see if that can give us some insight. Because if just by analyzing someone's sleep cycles, we can verify if they actually have lucid dreams, that would be really powerful because now smartwatches are like really, really cheap, or not really cheap. They're pretty cheap, way cheaper than a phone or most of the gadgets we use. And they have this built-in feature which most of the people are like, "Oh, look, it's a cool graph," but it might have some meaning behind it. It for sure has some meaning behind it. And if there was a way we could find that can prove lucidity, that would be really, really powerful, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely think the future is going in that direction. And the other things I think as well is that, of course, people can lie and say, oh, yeah, I'm lucid in every dream just because I think it's cool. But
Mhm.
like a lucid dreamer, I'm sure it's similar with omnis. You can kind of recognize by talking enough to somebody. If
Hmm.
you sit down for 2 hours and talk to somebody about your dream experiences and ask them questions, you can recognize, like, oh yeah, they know what I'm talking about. They know this feeling. So that's one way, and it's really just kind of like a community verification type of thing. And then another thing I mentioned to you before, which is done in a lab, where you just have a partner looking at you sleeping, and you try to do experiments across consciousness. When you see that they're in REM, you can tell the eyes are moving back and forth. And a lot of people have had success with like muscle twitches or like certain things that they're previously agreed upon for the dreamer to do while lucid in the dream,
Hmm.
like move your eyes a certain way or muscle twitch a certain amount of times or whatever, to confirm like, yeah, I'm lucid and I hear you, and I'm confirming that I'm lucid right now. And of course, that's not easy to do, because the person has to get lucid. But, for someone like you that's lucid in every dream, you could try this every day if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I remember that actually I said that I tried with my best friend to check with the RAM. We started like testing with how I would respond during sleep, but he said at least that he never actually checked my eyes. But he said it would make a lot of sense because I would always respond when I'm sleeping. If he said move over, and I was in complete sleep, I was full snoring and everything, I would just move over because I was aware of what he was telling me, and I would be able to move.
I'm wondering,
Um,
paralysis or the lack of sleep paralysis is a persistent trait across omni lucids, if that's something that they feel.
yeah, everyone experiences life differently, so it's normal. Everyone experiences dreams differently.
I really like what Amina said about trial by committee, right? Almost like it takes one to know one, right?
Yeah.
Unless you've gotten to know one so well that you are able to imitate their thoughts and their feelings and the way they express things. You've just found certain, triggers to really connect with somebody. I feel like we could almost employ, multiple methods to at least validate, somebody's experience, like using technology to track REM periods, having a visual observer, to also see if you're able to respond consciously during sleep, measuring similarities in personality or IQ or, let's say profession and your daily habits, and all these things might work as more of like a comprehensive understanding towards lucidity in general, and not just necessarily what it means to be Omni.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so true. There's so much possibilities there because lucidity is already hard enough to study in a lab because you have to have somebody with frequent lucidity in the lab on a designated night, which is difficult already to do. So if you have somebody who's automatically lucid in every dream, you can study so many things about lucidity alone. You have a chance every time you fall asleep to,
Discover
experiment on
something new.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that offers a really unique opportunity for like the future of lucid dreaming. It's really cool to meet all these people. I know you've found a community of other people like you, so it's cool to gather them up and see what we
It's like
discover.
2 people.
Okay, well,
So
that's cool
I
though. That's
hope it will grow to a kind of community because
I'm sure there's more.
yeah, for sure there are more like, and there are a lot of people who simply don't know about it, and just like I was, like I didn't know that other people don't have this. So there might be some people who might just, oh, I don't have that. I don't have dreams in which I don't know I'm dreaming. Wait, what's happening? And so on, and they start going through the loophole. And what I found at the time when I started to learn about this is that I was feeling really isolated. I felt like no one could really understand what I was going through per se. Like it wasn't like a trauma or something. It's just people couldn't understand what I was telling them. I would tell them, "Oh, I had a dream where I was completely aware and I went flying, and then I went and destroyed the whole building just by knocking my fingers and all those things." And they were like, "What, are you crazy? You're just inventing things." And it's really hard on someone's psyche to just dismiss an experience that they felt and they went through. And that's also one of the reasons I really want to find as many people as I can with this, because it's such a uncommon experience that you won't find people that easily that have the same thing as you do. You will find a lot of people that have the exact opposite, and that's totally okay. But after you'll start to see that everyone keeps talking about the same subject in the same way, and you have a completely different view, you'll feel isolated.
Well, I can tell you that I'm so glad to have met you, Nuke, and so glad that you are willing to participate in our rudimentary experiment, right? Because so many things that, regular dreamers take for granted, you would appreciate, and vice versa, right? You don't necessarily have to have a dream journal. You don't necessarily have to practice any methods, right? You may have habits that are conducive to your lucidity, but your experience is vastly different from somebody who is just learning about this topic and trying to figure out what works for them. So by you participating, we can really sort of define what your data looks like against somebody who isn't having that success with lucidity. I hope that we can continue to grow a community and to make more people aware of not just Omni, but of lucidity, and maybe even more importantly, dreams, because it almost seems like as a culture worldwide, we've reached a phase in our civilization where we've diminished dreams. I'm very interested to see how the results are affected by Eastern versus Western cultural differences, perhaps to dig deeper there and to see, how nature versus nurture may play a role in our relationship to our dreams. But let me say that I myself can resonate. I might not know exactly how you feel, but being such an advocate for lucid dreaming, I have nobody to talk to about this. I can't, even my dad, who claims to have this persistent realm of his own, and for years he's felt like dreams were just a fact of life. I never even had that conversation with him before asking him to fill out a brief survey about how he slept, and friends, family seem very disinterested with the topic because again, culturally it may be that we just don't value it as much as I believe we should. So in hopes of building a greater community who believes in being as inclusive as possible, is there anything else you would want to say to a potential Omni dreamer who may or may not be listening, in order to convince them of your condition, and in hopes of like recruiting them to join us and spreading this message and reaching out to more people?
Well, I have two pretty conflicting views on this. One of them is reach out to people and try to make them understand and make sure they know what you're going through, because even though that might not be such a hurtful thing to do, but after a while it might start to get worse and worse, and you need people around you. But then again, for an Omni, and I guess those that went through this will understand this, is through Omni, you have only yourself in your head. So the only person that can actually hurt you is yourself. And if you don't allow yourself to feel isolated, you won't feel it. If you don't allow yourself to feel per se not bad, because that might be and might not be controllable. I'm still trying to experiment with that, but through Omni you can, at least for me, I can control most of my feelings and most of the way I'm going through life. That way I don't feel the effect as powerful as some other people do. Even though I'm a really really empathetic guy, I cry a lot, to be honest. Like I get really emotional about things, which I guess is also a consequence of the fact that I have a pretty bleak view on life. I guess that's okay. If you feel like you have a bad time with yourself and your dreams or whatever, just as an Omni, just change it. Just do it. Don't wait for others to come and give you a hand. Do it yourself. You have the power to do it. For sure, do if you have control of it. If you don't, just reach out to people. You never know where help comes from. That's what I think I want to say. Even someone random from the street might give you the best advice you'll ever hear in your life. Someone completely random. He just tells you some random idea which resonates with you so hard that you won't even believe it. So reach out to people, reach out to anyone you can. If you have a bad time, if you feel isolated, anything. And I don't mean this just for an Omni, I mean for everyone who has a bad time. If you resonate with what I'm telling you, you can always find me on the Discord of the experiment. Just Nuclear Stardust is the same as my name. Send a message. I'm always, anytime, any hour, I'm always open to private messages, and I'm always open to listen to anyone, absolutely anyone. People need to learn to speak up their problems, to speak up their feelings, and that's what I'm trying to do with myself and to my friends and to everyone I'm speaking to. Otherwise, you'll just go through life like a robot. Well, talking to regular dreamers has been it has revealed to me a lot of things that I never experienced, but I would have loved to be honest. Like they say in their dream sharing or where whatever the subject it is, they have different views, which I always love about talking with people. That's why I don't really like people who agree with me, and that's why I don't agree usually with people. I like to not agree with people because I like to spark a conversation. Then an actual argument starts to form, and you learn from it, and the other person learns from it. And viewing two different points of view, like I view in myself with not opposing, just different points of view, can really teach both people involved a lot of things. I learn about what it means to actually dream, what it means to live and just go on with it. I can't do that. I simply can't, and that can be really frustrating sometimes. Really, really frustrating. And
It makes me think of the grass may not be greener on the other side. It's green where you water it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's so interesting to have that perspective and to try to bridge the gap between, novice dreamers and omni dreamers, and really to figure out where our differences lie. I think if we can learn to celebrate those differences in ways that can foster understanding, we can all become that much closer for, just having that discussion, right? I myself
hmm
like good debate, right? And arguments are okay too, as long as you fight fair. And always remember that there is no one answer, especially when it comes to dreaming. We all have this internal subjective experience. How can we make it more objective, right? What can we do in order to better understand each other? And you've really helped me a lot with that. You've helped people understand awareness and mindfulness in a plethora of ways since joining the experiment. And I'm really looking forward to your course on meditation because you've given me some good insights there. And just recently, I did a poll about how many people would be interested in learning more about meditation. And it's actually the most overwhelmingly positive poll I've taken so far. I meditate for my own reasons. I struggle with anger issues. And you mentioned your mother. I'm also asthmatic, and I have to meditate every day to gain better, control of my breath. I don't like depending on any sort of medication because I've found that it is an addiction in and of itself. It's not to undermine the beauty of medicine, but it's amazing what you can do with the power of your mind.
yeah,
And something as unconscious as the breath really can be tamed in a way through your conscious awareness.
totally. That's how I want to help the others, not necessarily in lucidity and awareness. Just meditation can improve your life in so many ways that you can't even imagine it. Once you start to actually do it, accept it per se, you'll start to orient yourself during the day in a different way. You'll search for the moments of insight of in search of the moments of silence and just talk with yourself. That's what I think the most important thing from lucidity, AIDA, meditation, everything. By doing any of these, you learn so much more about yourself. And after all, that's the most important person in your world, unless you have a kid, I guess. But yeah, it's the person you can actually learn. It's the only person you can truly, truly learn. It's yourself. And if you don't do it, it's a shame because you lose on so many things and so many interesting ways you can interact with yourself.
It makes me think of we only have access to 10% of our brain line, which isn't accurate,
It's
right?
it's not accurate at all, yeah.
There's more active periods depending on your state of consciousness, right? It's almost like if we did only have access to 10%, right? Let's just humor that idea. Maybe, some people have access to more like 6 or 7%, and you can do certain things to become more aware of that, of your ability, right? And then also, you are the most important person in your world. I would argue that even above your children, you have to take care of yourself in order to take
Yeah.
care of another person, right? And in your relationships, so many people say, "Oh, once you have that child, they come first. They're number one. You two don't matter anymore." And that's not necessarily true either, because it's almost as if that relationship between your parents is what sets the foundation for that childhood and their future. So although controversial, I would argue you have to always put yourself first. Yeah, so
I
I think that lucidity is a great way to get to know yourself better and always try to apply the things you learn from within a dream in practical ways in your waking life. And so many people get wrapped up in fantasy or the superpowers and the manipulation of matter and all these other things. But what can you take away from that state of being and apply to this world? Because the more you study lucidity, the more the lines get blurred. You sort of realize that, there is some sort of unconscious manifestation happening in your real environment. And how can you, harness that ability? I'm not saying, law of attraction, just think, I'm going to be rich, and it'll happen. But if you have this unconscious bias that, money is evil, for example, right? That's one thing I've had to overcome, is that, money is greed, money is, corruption, money is you're born with it or you're not, and then you do yourself a disservice, right? Because money is just a tool, and it's almost like a reflection of energy, right? So the way you define the world you live in can be understood better through exploring your own consciousness. That's how I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Regarding the child statement, the most important thing when you're raising your child is to give them the best view they can have about the world. If they have a bleak view, they will see the world in a bleak view for the whole life. And if you yourself are not in a good place, it's really hard to do that for them. And by knowing yourself and learning your problems and learning everything you can about yourself, you diminish that problem by a lot. And that's what I believe makes a good relationship between a kid and his parents or her parents. Or you can learn so much about yourself that you can help others understand you too. For example, when you have, I'm talking from my personal experience with my parents, but when your dad tells you to do something and you don't understand why he wants you to do that specifically, if you want to get your kid to actually do it, you just explain it to him. And if you are doing it in a healthy way, he will do it. Kids know their parents don't want to do any harm to them. People don't like to be pushed around. And that's normal. That's completely normal.
One thing that I've learned is to foster freedom of choice, right? It's almost like you need to lead by example, right? Otherwise you're a hypocrite and they don't understand what, like if my daughter's eating and I'm just staring at her, forcing food down her, she doesn't understand the context of what she may or may not be hungry. But if I'm enjoying my meal next to her and sharing what I'm eating with her, and providing options, then she's more likely to, participate. And
Yeah.
as she gets older, I'm always going to encourage, would you want green beans or peas? Right? Because although vegetables are essential part of the food pyramid, right? I still want her to feel like, okay, I still have an option here. And that's sort of how I look at the lens of parenthood is, controlling factors that may be otherwise outside of your control, like whether she really does like green beans or peas. She may like one more than the other. That's sort of how I approach that. But for somebody who's 22 years old, very wise beyond your years, you give me much to think about, and I always appreciate our conversations. So thank you.
Anytime. We'll love all our conversations, every single one. Yeah, it's 1:18 a.m. for me.
Get some rest. Happy lucid dreams.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll try the thing with the chess. I promise
it,
you.
Yeah,
I really want to see it because I played in the last 2 months a lot of chess, a lot of chess.
Please let me know how it goes.
I really want to see what happens.
You're gonna play yourself? Is that what you guys...
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna play myself in my dream.
Oh, Nuke, we need to play some chess.
Yeah, you'll beat me.
I haven't played in a while, but there's a few people in chat who definitely are into it. Maybe we could even have like a hosted tournament or something.
Just tournament, yeah, that would be really cool.
I'm unconventional mind that I will play mind games in the context of the chessboard. So very interested in exploiting your overly analytical brain.
Oh yeah, that really makes me lose a lot of chess games because I overanalyze everything and I'm like, I see the best move and I'm like, is this actually the best move? Is this actually, even though I know it is this actually the best move? And I start to lose so much time and I lose on time because of that. It's really annoying.
How about 3D chess? Maybe we could learn that together. I've never done that. I've played shot chess.
I
Every
tried 3D chess in my dream once. It was really weird.
One thing I would love to work with you guys on is, let's say, cultivating a population of lucid lab rats, right? And now we're moving to a separate space where we can delve deeper into consciousness and lucidity in particular, potentially employing more technology, more advanced experiments regarding lucidity. And we can start really recruiting some trusted, founding members of what I call the advanced class, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the current participants in experiment 1 are going to translate to future subjects and our other studies. And then I'll start practicing my chess game sometime tonight, Newt.
Oh
so
no.
Okay.
I just lost
Sounds
my
good.
my diamond subscription, so
I'll talk.
Alright.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
yeah.
You too.